My problem is it's in the back of my yard where we have a fence.
highway.
They might come back though that way.
Isn't that what that storm collection is for?
Probably gonna be tied up easily to the first of December.
I think you
Yeah.
should dock his salary.
Drives me crazy.
I'm also gonna have to cook my own dinner. If that, I'm gonna have to cook my own dinner. So
My wife's sick,
ridiculous.
so.
You just leave them to the last one. It'll be all right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Then you wind up with dead grass, though.
Great time last night. She sent her for it. Oh, yeah. Good. Who's this lady? I like her.
I got 2 kiddos, and I keep saying it's their job, and it never happens.
We were sharing.
14 and 12. Yeah,
Greg, how was your dinner with your son in Austin?
I wish.
Very filling. Very good.
I wish.
We went to a couple places.
Yep.
We went to a steakhouse. That was really good.
A little early whistle tonight.
A local
I don't know if it's cold in here this time, or I'm just cold.
Express place. That was pretty cool. It was good. Really good,
I
actually.
at least don't feel air
typical
on
in
my
here.
No, he was just there.
like normal.
right.
Came in Friday night, left Sunday.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But we just got back from.
What's going on in your world with your
He set up a dinner for us down there. It was like a 5-course meal, Spanish wine.
Which is still set
Amazing.
They were in that play.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we think we found the issue.
That was a musical, wasn't it?
I walked in.
Oh man, it was delicious. Melt in your
I want
mouth.
to put it on auto, but we turned it on E.
I walked in the house.
Never looked there again, maybe that's the problem.
Walked in the house
You can tell us
listed
where
the
we-
other day. It was 93 degrees outside.
Where'd you go?
Sit up.
Yeah, furnace was just rolling.
in that room.
Restaurant in
though,
Old San Juan.
when that was air conditioned, where the
Tell
heater
them that
was
when they go to
on,
look at
5-course
the average
5-course
utility
meal.
cost.
Yeah,
where we
is
did
it
that.
ridiculous?
Not,
One of them was tuna. It was just
I did.
Perfectly
do it.
cooked.
Somebody turned the heater on for the
melt in your
bathroom.
mouth.
There's a tuna dish they added.
So we finally found it in that
The new, they came up with
thermostat.
FYI for it too. I haven't had it yet.
I can hold about.
I'm always a little hesitant
Must
to seared out hate tuna.
that office, that office.
It's not like, it's our expertise. Red meat, you're good.
It's really neat, but
Over there.
You got ghost.
I guess so.
They were trick or treating.
There we go. I'll call this meeting to order for the City Council of West Burlington. I'll ask everyone to stand and we'll have our pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call for a roll call.
Newberry,
Here.
Crowner,
here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lees,
Here.
Young.
Here.
Okay, on the agenda, I'm going to move old business to our last items ahead of citizen inquiries, and we'll start with our new business. That's to accommodate our guests. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
Motion to approve with that amendment.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Right. I think I have the sound on, so. We have a consent agenda that has 3 items. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we'll go to our council and staff reports.
just a couple things tonight, Your Honor. Annual evaluations. If you need a paper copy, I've got one. John, you need a paper copy?
And we'll get one.
There you go. If you could get those back to me, I'd appreciate it. Defense grant opened up today. Start taking a look at that and digging into that. Building department revenue, I'll send an update just for the last month in your weekly update, which will either be Friday or Monday. I'm going to Ames tomorrow for the community visioning. Wrap up. Sidewalks, Public Works has done an excellent job, got that done. I look forward to getting that next connector done, working with the property owner. And we will be bringing the mall infrastructure items, the water, sewer, and electric to council so that we can get that arranged for the coffee shop location and working with the mall. So we're bringing that most likely at the next agenda, but we'll work timing out with the contractors to get that done. I think that's all I've got, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mike?
Oh, sorry, one more thing. Bad news today. Rollback came out. It went from 54.6 to 46.3, 8.3% drop. Yeah.
Wow.
So
54.6 to what?
46.3. So.
What's that equivalent to money?
Oh, well, that'll be, yeah, it'll be significant. Yeah, it'll be a significant hit. And the other factor that we have to deal with is the hospital's valuation is factored into our overall valuation. So it looks like we've increased in value more than we actually have, when in all reality that will not come to fruition, their current assessed value. So it'll be an interesting year and a whole new process. So we'll be starting here soon.
Mike?
Just been fixing or replacing broken hydrants and valves. We started our jetting. Katie will keep everybody posted in town where we're moving to the next day, from day to day. We're outside of town to the west out there right now, but I think by tomorrow we'll be moving in from that direction, and we'll keep everybody posted on the website each day. We're supposed to let her know where they're at and where we're headed, so everybody's aware. Just keep your toilet seats down, and hopefully Mother Nature will keep the weather nice so we can get across town before it gets cold and freezing again.
Thank you.
A couple things. No issues last night for the trick-or-treaters. I know it was a little chilly, but there sounds like there was still a pretty good amount out. Just depends what part of town you were in. I went down to the Safe Trick-or-Treat down at the auditorium. I was invited by Burlington Police Department. It was jam-packed from about 5:30 to about 8:15, 8:20 when I got walking out of there last night, and we had to close the doors just because there was still another hour and a half line waiting outside to come in. So it was very busy last night. Been working out at training grounds for the fire department, getting some stuff buttoned up for the winter out there. We ran over, I think it was 63 or 67 calls in the month of October. So we were very busy up there again this past month.
Thank you. Anything from our clerk?
Not tonight.
Nope. And we don't have anybody here for finance or the others. In that case, I'll go to council reports. Melanie?
I attended the IAAP briefing. I think Andy's going to give us a good an update on that. Thanks.
Okay. Therese?
No, I have nothing.
John?
No.
Andy?
I'll start with two quick things. Number one, presence last night at police around town, much appreciated. I thought you did a good job. Saw you several times down many streets, so appreciate that. Number two, the courts, which is on the backside of Fun City, the pickleball and basketball area there is going to open on Friday the 10th. That'll be the start of their first tournament. They're going to have a 5 p.m. ribbon cutting, free admission that night with appetizers and drinks from 4 to 6, so you're all welcome to attend that. Don't know how many teams they have on the first one, but I've asked them to give us reports on how many stays, so it could be 100 families a weekend going through the winter doing that. IAAP meeting, Melanie and Kelly and I were all there. There's a ton of information, and we can send out the full report, but I think the biggest item I saw was they're planning to use Gate 2, which heads right out by SCC and in the hospital there, right between them, coming off Agency. So if you can imagine when they're in full swing, 600 to 800 cars leaving there at the exact same time at quitting time, that's probably the biggest issue I saw. Housing, of course, going to be an issue. I think the other interesting thing was timing. Probably won't see this for a little bit. Looks like 2025 will really be the big part of it, and probably the second half of 2025. So until then, you may see 100 people or 300 people, but that's the big ramp up. I think the other thing I didn't know was there's really 3 projects, and this is all the first part. So the other 2 are not as big, but there may be 2 others coming on top that could add to it depending on when they're approved. So those were my big takeaways if somebody else had others.
I thought it was interesting that they said that they currently have 60 projects under construction right now. So I think a lot of people think this is the big project when it's just one of the 60 that are already ongoing. And they range in, I think, $10,000 to $20 million projects that are already out there and working, so.
Should have a big impact on our community.
So are they opening the gate at Augusta too?
Yes.
And is that where the big building's going, is down in that general vicinity?
They said they were going to move heavy equipment through that area. Folks from Lee County had some issues about maybe road maintenance down there.
Some gravel road, yeah.
So I don't know the answers for that, but yeah, going to open up Augusta as well.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, thank you. And I have nothing. All right. Any citizen inquiries? Seeing none. And I'll move on to our first item of new business. Consider resolution adding Katie West to the fire department.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Browner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, on our items 2, 3, and 4, we're going to have kind of a grouping, so I'll ask Greg if he'll do some introductions and some information.
Great. We started off, kickstarted our discussion on these topics. Well, it's been quite a while, but we had a recent discussion and asked Bolton and Mink to attend tonight. One, to introduce Bolton and Mink to you in person. A few of you met Bolton and Mink up in Cedar Rapids, or some of the folks from Bolton and Mink, and they're here to answer any questions on the comp plan, zoning, and stormwater programs that we have before council for consideration. And specifically, we talked a little bit earlier on some of the questions regarding tailoring it to West Burlington. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim. I've worked with Jim on several projects, several large projects, so it's good to have him here, and appreciate you coming, and I'll let you introduce your team.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Jim Harbaugh, and I'm a principal at Bolton and Mink. For those that don't know, Bolton and Mink is a multidisciplinary design company. About 90% of our work are for cities and communities, very similar to West Burlington here, where we do a lot of city engineering work. We do day-to-day planning, comprehensive planning, really a pretty broad showcase of design type topics. Today we're talking about a couple pretty interesting projects that we would have the opportunity to work with you on, and all 3 of the projects take a pretty broad team to really accomplish successfully. So you'll see a couple different disciplines that we have today. But you'll see it during the design process and the planning process, a lot more people working on projects like this. With me tonight is Ed excuse me, Ed is a senior planner out of our Des Moines office, and will be working with you on the comprehensive plan side of things. He has a pretty vast experience, not only in Iowa, but all really across the world, and it's kind of an interesting story, and something to sit down over coffee with him to talk about. And then we have Maddie Burke as well. Maddie's a funding specialist in our company and leads the get money side of things, if you will. Because we work with a lot of municipalities, we know that the ability to fund projects is paramount to the success of actually getting them on the streets and making those balanced budgets happen and moving things up. So it's very interesting. Some of the projects that we're talking about tonight are a seed for moving forward to getting grant funding opportunities, especially on the stormwater side, the comp plan side of things. They're a very strong roadmap for future design and construction and funding procurement as part of that. So it's very important to understand that we're here not to just do the design side of things, but we're here to help your community as a whole moving projects forward. And that's what we do, and that's what the focus of our company for 74 years now has been. So with that, I want to just have each of you introduce real quickly, probably up to the microphone. And talk a little bit about yourself.
Jim said I'm Madison Burke. I'm a senior funding specialist with Bolton and Mink. I really come into play with taking your planning efforts that you're doing and then making those projects happen. A lot of times the funding sources require planning, so it's fantastic that we're starting here and then we're going to go to that next step. So I have experience in private like foundation funding, state funding, and then also federal funding sources. A lot of times there are transportation related funding sources that you hear mostly about, but there is many other sources that we can be looking at for different types of projects. So that's kind of my role, is I will help make sure that it's more than just a plan. We can take it to that next step and make the projects happen, because, you know, as you kind of mentioned, budgets are hard and money gets moved around, and so if we can help find funding sources to supplement some of that, that's what my role is. So if any of you have specific questions for me before we change to Ed?
Yeah, a quick one.
Yeah.
When you're hired, or when your company's hired to do a project, what's your goal as to how much funding you think you can procure for those projects? Do you set a goal for yourself?
No, because it all is based on the project specifically. So it depends on the components of the project. So if somebody says they're doing a roadway, I want to look at the whole project. What are the pieces within it? It's not just a road. Is there beautification efforts? Are there ADA efforts going into it? So then you pull in safety funding. So I try and look at any type of funding sources versus just a road. So try and think a little bit outside the box with it. So it's hard to say, like, it'd be great to say we'd fund it 80%. Most federal funding sources, you can't go above 80%. So it'd be great to say that, but I think it just depends on the project. So.
Gotcha. So if you have input on the planning, you also have in the back of your mind, oh, if we do it this way, we might be able to get funding for it, but if we do it that way, not so much.
It might change it a little bit, yep. And also, when it comes to telling the story in the grant applications, knowing the background with all the planning efforts that you guys have been doing or will be doing, that helps tell a bigger picture. So again, some funding sources do just want, tell me what it is, what's the cost, but a lot of them want to know the full picture. Tell me more about the community. I want to know, they want to know where they're putting their money in. So, so it's helpful to tie those pieces together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what talent do you really have over your competitors to get more granting? And I'm sure everybody else can say the same thing, that they do this and they do that and they do that, but what do you have to offer over them?
I think that it's the team within Bolton and Mink, because there's storytelling with grant efforts, but there's also, you need somebody with those technical aspects. So I can, if I need to talk about and a grant application specific planning efforts. You know, I have Ed here that I can just call up and ask. We have our transportation department. That's great. Those engineers think a little bit differently and a little more technical than I would, because I am not going to say I'm a transportation engineer. So I think because of which, Ed has a really good slide on here that shows all the different disciplines that we have and more. So I think just because of who's on our team, I just know who to call and I can work with them versus just trying to do it myself and think small. It allows us to just kind of think bigger from that aspect.
Doesn't everybody have that same thing? Another team and people?
I don't think so. I think that's how we're unique, is just because we have so many different services. And just, you know, a lot of them are just down the hallway, right? You know, so you can just tap into them that way. So from my experience, that's kind of what's made us unique in grant funding, so.
You're based out of Cedar Rapids, but is the company much larger?
Yes, so I cover funding for all of Iowa. I try and follow any funding sources there. But we have 6 Iowa locations. We have Minnesota, North Dakota, North Carolina, South Carolina, all locations, Bolton and Mink locations. Yep.
And could you give specifically on state and federal funding, kind of 2 examples, one from the comp plan side and one from the stormwater side, just examples of grants that you've had before for projects you've worked on?
Yeah, so one, actually, we're working on them right now. It's a water quality initiative grant. There's 2 different kind of sizes, I guess, dependent upon how much nutrient reduction and some of those pieces that you're going for. And because of our relationship with the people who run the program at IDOLS, we've been able to have those conversations to just say, hey, is this a good project, and help us think bigger. You know, what would help us get into that bigger grant category? And it's a difference of $100,000 to $250,000. So that alone is, it might seem small, but depending on the project size, it is fairly significant. Yeah. So I think for that, and for planning, it is tough. Greg and I have had this conversation, and planning money is really hard to find. However, I am on the Rural Development Council, and we have a planning grant that we help fund rural communities. It's small, it's only a few $1,000s, but the whole intention is it's going to be a starting point that then you can get additional, you know, community support. It's usually more private dollars to help with planning. One of the planning federal level efforts that I told Greg that I was looking into, we'll see, but most of the agencies want to fund the infrastructure, the construction phase. So unfortunately, when it comes to planning specifically, but in order to get the funding for the infrastructure, you have to do the planning. So it's kind of a catch. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, specifically on the comp plan side.
Yeah.
I mean, really then, what I'm hearing back is there was no great example of that, of state and federal funding. So,
smaller funding sources, so like your community foundation funding, the casino money.
Yeah.
It's really going to be those smaller federal, local sources that you kind of pair up to help cover some of it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, comp planning is just not a big one that.
Can I guess, clarify your question? Are you asking if we're going to be able to use the in document to help us find funding?
Correct.
Not funding for the comprehensive plan itself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
No.
Okay.
Right.
I misunderstood.
So
Yeah.
I kind of changed my answer mid discussion at our work session on the topic, because I started to think more about the comprehensive plan and how I would or have utilized them in the past in taking information from the document itself to apply for grant funding.
Yes.
Whatever that may be. But so I think it's a little bit different question.
Yes, that's different than what I was answering. Sorry.
Specifically, have you been able to use a comp plan that you've developed to go find infrastructure funding for a main sewer line or for a new housing development or those kind of things?
So one that we did, we worked with the city of Elkhart, much smaller, but they had a main street. We did a comprehensive plan with them, and then we were able to do a 2-block Main Street full reconstruction on their just their little downtown area. And we were able to help get, that one was 70% of the funding was grant funding, and then they only had to do the rest of the 30%. And since that's been installed, they have now had 2 more businesses, which much smaller area, so 2 is significant in there, who have come there, and then they have some other plans that are going to happen to add more to their downtown area.
And was that a state or federal grant?
Those were state.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. It was a smaller scale
That's all
project,
right.
so federal didn't make sense, because that's the other thing you want to think about is if it's a small project with federal money, there's a lot of ties, extra steps you have to go through. So that's one thing we always make sure that it's worth the effort too.
Specifically on sewer main, is there anything that you would know of tied to that?
That SRF is super common, the state revolving fund, for that.
Sewers are challenging. There's not a whole lot of
Yeah.
resources out there for
I know I can take a
sewers.
loan and pay my money. I want their money.
Yeah, no, I know. That is one, when it's a sewer project, it sounds weird, but I try and look at the other pieces of it. So if we can fund the other things, and then you pay, you cover the sewer portion. But that's a lot of how grant writing works, right? Like, you got to figure out what piece you can cover with it, and then you pursue that. Make sure it's worth it, but.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, yep.
Kathy?
Probably difficult to answer, but how effective is your funding efforts? Do you get return on your attempts, should I say?
That's a great question, and we should totally run that report. I'm sure there's a report of some facet, so I don't have an answer. But I think what makes it different is a lot of times we don't pursue, like we as a team, I guess I say we as me in the community, if it's not going to be worth the effort, and we vet that as much as possible, because I don't want to waste anybody's time or money on trying to pursue. So I don't have an answer. I'm sorry.
Teresa, anything from you?
Should we jump to the comp plan then? Thanks, Madison.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Ed Salem. I'm a senior planner with Bolton Mink, and I'm here to talk about item 3 and item 4, the comprehensive plan update and the zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance update. I have a small presentation just to give you an introduction to our team and our project. Well, as Jim stated for you earlier, that our team is multidisciplinary. It is diverse experience from engineering, transportation, to planning, facilitation, and even funding, as Mandy just explained to you. And really, our experience gained from working with the small communities in Iowa and in the Midwest in general. And to echo, just to expand in the question that Councilman John asked for, what makes us better than the competition? We live in the community. We are part of the community. Our offices in Iowa and the Midwest is really, our employees are part of those small communities. They live in those small communities and they work in the small communities. So we have more knowledge about those small communities. We know them in personal level even. So that's what makes us more kind of edge in the competition. And we specialize in the small communities. Other firms, they are trying to do the bigger fish. We are trying to work with a small community because I think that's part of our strategy as a company, is to provide part of our, even though we are profit company, but we're also working with outreach kind of social aspect to our company. We need to work with small communities. We need to make sure that the planning has a return to the effort of the development of those small communities, and that's the reason why really we have an edge on other companies. Our team is really consists of Jim is the client service manager. I am the project manager. And this picture really is real, but I was very young. And then we have Moira, she's going to be the technical advisor, and Robin will be the public engagement, and I know that public engagement is going to be a big issue and a big thing for the community here to make sure that the comprehensive plan and the zone ordinance is successful. We need to have them engage and be part of the decision making. And we have also Franny Nelson is the planner. This is just to repeat the question I just answered, John, with that question that we are acknowledged in terms of our community, our staff, that we have a vast range of skills and experiences. We are engineering and planning specialists. We are combined knowledge. I think we have more than 100 years of experiences if we put all our staff together. I have 30-something years of experience, starting my career in Bettendorf, Iowa, Cedar Rapids, to Dubuque, to Ames, to Raleigh, North Carolina, Sanford, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and all over the world, and coming back to my root, which is back in Iowa. So combining experience is a large scales we have. We have vast of staff from different locations that we can call on to ask for help if we need help. And those, just the 4 or 5 you saw in the picture, just the front, who will be doing the work, but we have other people to call on to give us some expertise and some support. The project, we're going to do it as friendly, user-friendly as possible. We have to make the plan simple to use, understand, interactive. People can understand it. Staff can use it with confidence. Council members, decision makers can use it also without second interpretation. You need to make sure that it has a clear meanings and a clear definition rather than start second guessing each other. Balance city policies and market to achieve objectives. We need to make sure that the plan does not hinder economic development, does not hinder investor to come in here. So we need to make sure that the investor has confidence with this plan and that they can really use it for their own advantage. Create value, and also one size does not fit all. It have to be customized to fit West Burlington. We can bring plan, cut and paste and make it fit for you guys, but you have to be customized and work with the people. People have to come up with this information, and we need to facilitate this information into a plan. So from our side, we will align the plan elements. We need to make sure that the existing plan, the new plan, the ordinances update, the strategic vision of the city council, the regional vision or strategy, that all aligned horizontally. They really run together so you can read them through without having any separation. Coordinate effort with the city staff, with the steering committee, with the planning board, with the city council, and collaborate together with our stakeholders, engage the community. This is a big thing. It have to come, all master plans or comprehensive plans have to be bottom up. The implementation have to be top down. So we have to bring people into this base, to this kind of grassroots, and make them part of the decision making. If they do not participate, they will not buy into it. So it have to be bottom up kind of approach. When we finish the plan, the city administrator will become top down implementation. So, inform decision maker in a timely manner. We will inform you on in every stage we finish. It have to be through the staff or through us appearing for presentation or through the steering committee report, but it will be an organized, scheduled report for you to know where we are in every stage. We will be efficient, and this efficiency comes from our large network we have in terms of staff and expertise, and trying to jump together to get the plan done in the exact date. And also, we will deliver. We will deliver a holistic, comprehensive, responsive, seamless, graphically engaging, and user-friendly document for the comprehensive plan. And from the comprehensive plan, we will create the zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance as a tool for implementation. So you will have a document really that you'll be confident to use, and you'll be confident that all your citizens will be using as a reference through the development or through requesting for zoning or rezoning or for subdivision of the plot or any kind of development. So this kind of a graphic, just an example, trying to put some West Burlington municipality, one city, one future. So I felt to have the freedom to come up with some logo. As an architect,
Don't start talking about logos, please, John. We don't want to get John started on logos.
Any questions?
Well, I guess I do.
Go ahead.
So the reason I asked that question right off the bat was, what do you have to offer more than your competitors? And what I was looking for somebody to tell me that you are more efficient and that you got better planning and you can get me more grant funding than the other people, and you're cheaper. If you want my vote, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So do you offer that?
We are efficient.
Pardon me?
We are very efficient. This is one. We are very skillful planners and with expertise. And I think we are very competitive in terms of our pricing. And I think maybe even more competitive than our competitors, because we know how to work with the small communities, and we know their budget, and we know their finance issues. So we always structure our numbers to fit with the small community budget. Cheaper, this is a very, very loaded statement. Cheaper, that means it's not always cheaper will be the best, but we are competitive in terms of a pricing. So
what is the rate, and how do you charge that?
I leave Jim talk about the rate, because he is the expert in the rate more than me, okay?
So I would say that we're very cost effective compared to peers. Can you get a cheaper comprehensive plan out there? Potentially. Can you get a comprehensive plan to the level that you might be able to utilize? And as we were talking about, the goal of our project here is to get a comprehensive plan that is sitting on the city clerk or city administrator's desk, and it's so dog-eared because we're going back to it on a daily basis that you need to print more copies. That's the difference I think that we can bring versus some of the cheaper ones out that can give you a comp plan that sits on the bookshelf. Doesn't influence your code updates, doesn't influence your future land use and utilities associated with it, and doesn't help you go get future funding for projects as well. So that's the difference, I think.
I haven't worked with Bolton and Mink on the strictly planning side, but we've worked on a number of complicated projects together and award-winning projects as well. And community engagement was always a large part of that on several of those projects as well. That's, I think, my experience with Jim and the entire team at Bolton and Mink has been excellent. That's why I've talked about bringing them before you tonight and introduced a few of you at the league meeting to the team, and enjoyed working with them. And the end product has been extremely valuable and successful in each and every case. And you can go on their site and you can see examples of those as well. These have been some extremely complicated from a design, funding, from a management, construction management perspective, community engagement perspective. And at the end of the day, each of the projects was extremely successful. So I've been looking forward to hopefully bringing the Bolton and Mink team here to work with us.
I think, you know, on the community engagement side, I think our passion is to make sure that we hear the silent majority.
How do you do that?
We have a box of community engagement approaches, and something like on a comp plan, we'll use a variety of them. Some of them are, you know, your typical open house. That's tried and true. You'll get a small percentage of the population that will attend anything and everything. That's really great. That's something that we need to do. We also know that not everybody has the time or doesn't want to be in a crowd or can't be there that night. So we provide online engagement as well that we do through either online surveys, which is a pretty traditional method. We also do Story Map, which is an interactive implementation where people can go in and click on their neighborhood, their map, put their own comments on right on their house. You know, don't put my sidewalk in front here, you know, that, to that level of thing. That we can put together objectively and have documentation for it, not only to help us in the comprehensive planning process, but also to help the future city council. You know, it may not be all you up here, maybe somebody else in 5 or 10 years. If you have the information and you can tell the story of the journey and how you got there, it's much easier to have a continuance of an idea or a vision for communities. And I think that's a game changer and something that we've really learned about. I'm going to do a really quick story that working with Greg on a project. We had a project that we were going to put a roundabout in next to a downtown area. And in some communities, roundabouts are a 4-letter word. We understand that. They have their place, they're good. You know, try to oversell them or anything like that. You know. But we had a couple people in public office that were adamantly opposed to having a roundabout there, and for no good reasons other than I don't like that. And we worked through a group of 200 plus people through instant polling at that meeting, and we discovered through that silent majority that 75% of the people actually really wanted to do this, and we had provided 2 or 3 different options. We weren't selling one thing or the other, but it really spoke to me that hearing not just the squeaky wheel in a room, but hearing the silent majority is a really important part of the planning process. So hopefully, now we have other tools too. We also know that not everybody's going to come to a comprehensive planning meeting to talk about things because maybe they don't understand it. So we bring it out to the people. We will do pop-up events if you have a community barbecue or a community event, a farmer's market. We'll actually set up there and get people engaged right then and there to get them interested. We've engaged school districts before where the community survey, we had got 10% response, but we worked through with the community school districts because we wanted to hear the youth, and they assigned it as homework, and we had 80% return rate, which is pretty good. So a variety of tools that we use to make sure that we get the right information and that council has the right information. That's the important part. Sorry for the long-winded.
No, thank you. No,
answer.
appreciate it.
As you can tell, it's a very passionate thing for our company.
I thought you were going to tell us something about Greg we could use against him.
That's after the meeting. We'll talk later.
Can I ask one question in terms of code updates for a city like ours, our size? When you get to the code update part, what's typical to see for the kind of changes that we need?
I'll start and Ed can maybe jump in. I would say that depends. It really depends on where your existing code sits and what your future vision is going to be. And part of that, and that's why we start a comp plan beforehand, is to start understanding that vision first, because the comp plan informs the code.
And I'm not looking for specifics, but what generalities of code updates are you talking about? Are you talking about setbacks or what areas?
Land use, zoning issues, setbacks, density, height, FAR, for example, parking issues, all these things that, even open space, community areas, commercial versus residential, what's allowable use, what's not allowable use, and so you update all this information according to them, to the best practice and the present time activity, so that your comprehensive plan become the map, and then zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance become the implementation tool that you implement on the ground. So really, you have to look at everything and see what's your zoning ordinance right now, your subdivision. I mean, I give you an incident, a case, and I was in Newport News, and I was in a meeting talking about subdivision plotting things and site plan review, and to find out that their subdivision and site plan it's not been updated since 1960 something, and their comprehensive plan is in 2018. And this is out of date, tried to implement the current plan. It does not work. There's a lot of conflict. There is a lot of amendment coming every day, try to amend the zoning ordinance to match the comprehensive plan, or amend the comprehensive plan to fit what is in the zoning ordinance. So that's what Jim's saying, that we go through the comprehensive plan, set up the goals and objectives and policies for implementation, and then we start updating the zoning ordinance, the subdivision ordinance to fit with the current plan vision.
So you may hear, when you're speaking to the public, that we need this certain kind of housing, but based on our code, we can't build that today. Is that what I'm hearing? Things like that?
Maybe that's not allowed now in the current code because there is some restriction in the zoning. Then the study of the comprehensive plan and the zoning, they might resolve these issues. Try to find a better solution, a better answer to these things.
Or we may have a parking ordinance that our public would like different, and this information would help drive that. Those kind of changes?
Yeah, many, for example, many communities right now, they are reviewing Walmart and Target and Sam's Club's parking requirement. Why you need 5,000 parking space or 1,000 parking space when it's empty most of the day? So they start looking at, do we require minimum parking spaces, or we say no minimum? Just leave it to the developer to calculate the need and submit to the city to approve the parking space. But you have to provide some, but there is no minimum requirement. And this is some of the changes that are happening. Or downtown parking. There is no requirement for downtown parking development for housing. If there is a parking deck available, parking facility available in the city downtown, then you can say there is no requirement for downtown residential areas.
Okay, thank you.
So do you just come in and make changes just to make changes, or do you just come in to make, is there a reason you have to make the code changes, I guess is what I'm
But there's a
asking.
reason. You have to review the code and the current practices and the best practices and the need for the community, and see whether there is the conflict, and then you try to update your code, zoning code and ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, to be able to resolve these issues and this conflict. And it is a state mandated document. So this is an implementing tool. It's.
But you gave me the Walmart idea. I mean, so what if Walmart wants to build a parking lot bigger than what they need? And our code says you do the minimum. What, I guess I'm not following.
No.
He's saying the opposite of that we're requiring them to do maybe too much parking. So to maybe eliminate some of the requirements we're
Currently have.
An example.
So in our case, for example, they put a huge amount recently into repaving or resurfacing that lot. It's a large black lot that contributes to our stormwater issues. We don't have anything in our zoning ordinance that would that addresses that. Now, there's any number of things that could help us address, or best practices that could help us address stormwater management practices on site, and would have shaped that a little bit differently, for example. And would help us with our other issue, the stormwater issues that we're having around town as well, as an example.
Coles.
But then the zoning ordinance,
Like Coles parking lot sits empty.
right, and as we've gone through the zoning ordinance, you know, about every week, we've found an issue
Yeah.
or an item that's come up, so there's gaps. We want to make sure that there's flexibility within the ordinance, and we want to make sure it's easy to use. There are different formats that work a lot better, that are much easier to review from both a staff perspective as well as a public's perspective, and you can certainly put it in a better format that works for the public. But in the case of Walmart, it's an excellent example of what we could do to improve our community through zoning changes.
And all based on what our community wants.
Yeah.
And best management practices, and recommendations. And these are all recommendations that will be coming from Bolton and Mink and from staff to the council and the body. You are the ultimate decision makers. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
So at this point,
You have, well, we've got these the three items on here for council consideration tonight. Do you have any questions related to stormwater? That's the only topic we haven't. You want to do that under this discussion item, or how would you like to proceed? Do you have any questions on stormwater? Maybe that's just as simple as we've touched on comprehensive plan and zoning. Is there any stormwater questions? I mean, we've gone through that in pretty detail, and here's one case where there is a potential for planning. We can do an NOI, notice of intent with FEMA, and hopefully perhaps get some planning dollars or additional planning dollars as well. But we have to have that plan in place in order to go out and look for funding for stormwater management practices. And we all know that we've got some issues that we need to deal with throughout the community, and so I'm hoping that we can help identify, address, and plan for those. So.
I'm very interested, you know, the code of 50 years ago is influencing your stormwater issues now. With Lewis Park here, think of it on the north side of town here, and the issues that you have, or northern side of town. That watershed goes into Walmart and Kohl's and south of the highway, and everything that rain falls down there flows north. So I think it's very apropos to talk about how code influences our future issues at the same time, and how the importance of updating code is to the next step, the next future of things.
Specific to the stormwater proposal, do you have a specific expertise within your company on stormwater management, and what is that?
We do. We have a water resources group that will be doing the brunt of the work here, that are experts in stormwater watershed modeling and understanding what's existing in your watershed that impacts things, and what the new climate that we have on almost an annual basis, it seems like, impacts and changes the modeling for the future, and that's something that we take into account. We also use things like a comp plan and look at future land use within watersheds, and utilize that to understand, so that we can plan for not only today, but you know, the next 30, 50 years out for stormwater. That all in mind and wrapped up into one model. And I don't know, has anybody looked at the contract on here and actually saw the actual watershed that we're looking at? It's kind of interesting to me, just the impact of things that are happening in the community, or have happened in the past. And sometimes we don't see that connection until we start modeling and looking at it. It's a big watershed.
A lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Greg, I have one for you.
Yes.
Do we have any other bids?
Bids is probably not the right term.
Right.
We've looked at a few other proposals, gone through them in depth. That's why the date on here would need to be changed. And Kelly and I took a look at those and went through those in lots of detail, and really feel that this is the best proposal to move forward with. Absolutely.
I was impressed. I spent some time on your website looking through projects and videos of Ames trails and things like that, the areas that I'm familiar with and kind of know. And I think all three of these items are something we need, and it's in our goals to get these done. I think we need them for future projects and future things we're looking at doing. Personally, I always like to have two bids in front of me, just so I'm not knowing, the other guy's 25% of this. So I always like to see some of those myself.
Engineering services proposals are professional, lost my train of thought. Professional services agreements that you don't do bids for. Typically, you go out and identify, unlike a project itself, you go out and identify who's going to be the best team that's going to work with you, and you get those quotes. Those proposals back before you. It doesn't require a bid per se,
They each provide a little bit different scenario
Absolutely.
of how it works.
Yeah.
And that's kind of.
I just always like to know a little bit, do my due diligence. I feel like I owe that to my neighbors. Is this thing triple everybody else? Is it in line like we're hearing it is? But I like to have some of that data in front of me.
Yeah.
Another component,
the comprehensive plan, for example, I can go through and provide some additional data if you'd like on those.
It really speaks to me, number one, you being here, number two, the things I've seen, the amount of work already, and then three, that Greg, who I trust very much, has this experience with you. I always feel like I owe that to at least know the numbers.
I think you're going to need to compare what's in each one more than just the numbers, though.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I've largely got that put together. I can put that together and put it on the agenda, or if you'd like to go that route.
And others might not feel that way, but that's where I'm at.
I think that is important.
Well, it's everybody's a little bit different. I mean, and whether it's attorneys, professional services agreements, and whatever it might be, this is your opportunity to work with somebody that I guess you're confident in, that you feel is going to do the best job for the community. Perhaps that you've worked with before, but it's a little bit different scenario than when you're going out for a black and white bid on a concrete or on a street project or a water project or whatever it might be, you've got a number of different companies, RDG and
MSN.
No, the other. And they range in value and price and cost. I can't remember the one that did Bondurant as well, but it was significantly, Confluence, it was significantly higher as well. But in I guess my experience, you're going to get the most bang for your buck with Bolton and Mink, and the cost was in line or lower than each of the other ones, other than one, I believe it was MSA.
Yeah, it didn't have the other parts to it.
It wasn't comprehensive in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't a comparable product. But no. Yep.
So what's your consensus on this? Do you want to go ahead with this, or shall we look for those prices, which, again, is not comparing cement to cement?
It could compare cement to cement. You know, we can ask them to do the same thing, okay?
Well,
It's not that, so, in the future, Greg, I think that I would like the same thing what Andy's saying. I would like to have an option of 1 or 2 or 3 different people, you know? I would like to be,
I sent out a lot of material from the other ones. You've had all those materials for months.
but we didn't have.
Yeah, all the numbers and everything are in there.
I guess we never had no discussion about, and what was with the other people offering and not offering and carrying on, and then here they are.
There's a number of, right.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing numbers, I guess. I read through, like Bondurant's, I read through that.
Yeah, there are a number of different examples, yeah. Maybe
yeah.
not the numbers, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Number of different examples from different entities. That's what it was. Right. Yep.
Greg feels very confident in you guys, and I am somewhat confident in Greg. So, you know.
I appreciate that Greg's invited us to here. I'll only say that I want you to be comfortable with us, and that a goal of our company is long-term relationships with our clientele. You know, 90% of our work are repeat clients. You know, it's easier for us because then we don't have to come back to you every time and put together a proposal and show you our qualifications, because we build relationships as much as we do just the technical side of things, and that's really important to us. So I want you to be comfortable with the work that we're presenting to you here tonight and in the future. And whether we accept this tonight or we go back to the drawing board, I would prefer to tonight. That's okay. But I totally understand that we're new to the community, to this council, and that we have to prove ourselves. And that's through relationships and hopefully asking and answering the questions that you have and showcasing that we feel like this community is important to work in, because you have unique issues that are going to be a challenge, and challenges are something that we enjoy doing. That gets me up in the morning, and be that comfort level to work for you for the long term. And that's as a community. That's not just day zero council here. That's for decades.
So if I'm reading this right, the bid that you have here for the stormwater infrastructure, the price you have here is good until December of this year? Is that correct?
Our hourly rates are good
But
through
I
them?
have on the back sheet, the quote is like $107,500. And I think I read somewhere that quote is good through December of 2023.
It is. We'll have to adjust the dates on this.
Yeah.
This was submitted.
In January.
Yeah.
February was not a good month.
So as we're moving forward with contracting, we will put a not to exceed limit on it. We charge by the hour. We don't, so it's not a lump sum. So the work we put in up to the max is what we would do. If we come in a little bit lower, that would be great for you. But we also put a max cap on it as well.
Yeah, because you have on page 2, number 3, the attached fee, schedule of fees, apply for services provided through December 31st of 2023.
Yeah,
But that was kind of, wasn't
days
this
would
all
need to be
assuming?
updated.
Yeah, January start date of 2023, and we're not there.
Yep. So we'll update that.
Gotcha.
Pricing won't change though. Our
We-
sorry, go ahead.
You've proposed us 3 plans, and the comprehensive plan, the stormwater plan, the ordinance plan. If we'd have to prioritize funding, since we're gonna get an 8% reduction due to the rollback information we just got in Money Matt, that, we gotta be able to pay for it. What order would you what order would we do them in? Or would we have to do them all at once to make?
It's like trying to pick who my favorite son
It is, right, okay.
Yeah, but who is it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the, no.
Well,
I'm asking right now, so you
think-
pick me.
That's why I was recommending that we use tax increment financing fund balance, undesignated fund balance for these projects so that we can get going on the planning efforts so that we can put ourselves in positions to apply for funding for other opportunities that come along. We'll go in more detail on the undesignated fund balance, as I mentioned earlier, but we've gone through that and really that needs to be appropriately spent. And we've talked about updating the urban renewal plan. That'll be coming forward with the Chris Ailes, the senior housing project. And in that, we'll have a list of items that we want to include in the urban renewal plan where you can utilize TIF. And just as a reminder, when you include something in the urban renewal plan, it doesn't mean you have to use TIF. It means you may use TIF, and there's a process that you have to go through in order to utilize it. So if that was acceptable with the council, we would make sure and include it. We actually have a call next week because we're moving forward with that TIF agreement and urban renewal plan amendment. With our bond council, this would be included in the urban renewal plan amendment, and council, we could utilize undesignated fund balance and TIF.
Okay. And the order are you saying we'd have to do all three at once, or you'd recommend doing all three all at once, or, let me guess, comp plan, stormwater plan, parallel, and ordinance would be third?
I think that's the beauty of doing them together, is you're kind of like saving money on the back end. If you do the comp plan, you're going to have to turn around, and if you choose somebody else to do it, that's a whole other
It's a new learning curve, yeah.
And that's, I think, for me, that was one of the things that I liked, because what you don't want are your zoning regulations to conflict with what your goals are. And then you end up, like you said, piecemealing different things, and you don't get that consistent flow. And I think having the stormwater in there right from the get-go in the planning is going to be long-term beneficial to something that we've needed to do for a really long time.
Yeah, we've kicked that can down the road a little too far.
And I don't know which one, I think you have to do the comp plan before the zoning, but I think that's going to have to come pretty quickly if you want to implement your comp plan.
And there's things that we can get started on the zoning. I mean, if you make it, we have a big issue at Lures, as an example. I mean, you could, if you were going to do anything, I mean, that, and Mike's done a lot of work and identified much of that information, but I mean, the comprehensive plan, I mean, it's essentially it's the action steps to help us achieve our goals for the next 20 years, or plus or minus. So I mean, they're all critical documents and important work that needs to be done. But
Which the way I
you need to have
understand it is
level of comfort with it.
we can't do anything about this stormwater issue we got in this problem, this flooding, until we get these done to move forward to get the money in the grants. So we're kind of at a standstill to fix the issues until we get this taken care of.
Yeah, there's just throwing money at a problem, and we don't know if it's going to fix it.
Right.
We're just, get by.
What is the time frame to do each of these plans?
Comp was 12 months, right? Stormwater?
Comp plan's about
6 to
12
8,
months. That's not really because we can't get the office work done by then. But, we talked about public outreach, and public outreach has a rhythm to it and a pace, and that's really important. Ed and I were talking about it coming over here. We don't want to start public outreach probably on the comp plan until after the holidays, because we're this close to Thanksgiving, and you're not going to get anybody to buy in, or so there's a certain aspect of that. The stormwater portion of it is a little bit shorter time frame. It's probably that 6 to 8 month timeline. That's a lot more technical, a lot less community input involved. But it's a big watershed, and it takes a while to get that data into the model and develop the plan. And the code update, I think, is very important it should trail the comp plan a little bit, not necessarily wait for the comp plan to be done and then get the code update started, but it needs to trail just a little bit. It's because comp plan informs.
And the outreach will be for both at the same time, so there will not be separation in the outreach. So we can take advantage of the outreach and public engagement to do both the comprehensive plan and the code update.
Okay, yeah. What you're saying is the input you'd gain during the public outreach would inform decisions for both the comp plan and the ordinance
But
update.
all your implementation strategy will be the actual leading to the code update and the subdivision ordinance. So you're putting those mechanisms into the comprehensive plan, immediate need, 5 years need, future need, and then you schedule them in the table to be implemented, and that will then you start talking about the grant.
Grant,
So you have to apply for a grant, and you have them as a strategy in your comprehensive plan. And then there's a mechanism to implement this strategy. Then you can apply for funding.
Yeah. Gotta build the pieces.
Yes.
Critical.
So I'll make a motion that we hire Bolton and Meek to do the stormwater infrastructure.
All right, so that is our number 2. So I have a motion on the floor for number 2.
Support.
Motion and support. We've had quite a bit of discussion, so I'll call for a roll.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I just want to know, you mentioned maybe having other bids. You have seen other bids for this. I know I'm using the wrong word, bid.
Quotes.
Other
How about
proposals, quotes, whatever. And you're telling me they were what in comparison?
I was trying to find my numbers. Confluence was,
One Confluence was much higher
yeah, significantly higher on the comp plan
in the zoning updates.
and stormwater, nuclear engineering as well. I'm trying to find my spreadsheet here.
Okay.
Was it MS? was
So
it-
Confluence was much higher. Who
RDG
else?
was, RGG, McClure,
The RDG, it was lower, but it was only partial. It wasn't all 3.
I apologize, I can't hear you.
I was just trying to remember which one is which. I think RDG was, it was lower, but it was only a portion of, I think it was just the comp plan.
So how was it comp plan to comp plan?
I don't want to say off the top of my head. I looked at it during, when we were at the league conference.
And the one that was higher was that comp plan, the comp plan 2?
All 3
It
on
was all
Confluence,
3.
they said.
when you were,
Well, I think it was comp plan and zoning codes.
comp plan, zoning code, and stormwater master plan. There's just a few more firms that do comprehensive planning, RDG, Confluence, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning, McClure. And so you got to look at, well, it's a bit challenging. You look through all of the materials, you look through the company, the services that they provide and the information that they've put in the handouts or in the materials, and then obviously you look at price too, make sure it's not out of whack or out of line with the other ones, and across the board, this was clearly I think the best effort put forward, both from a plan-wise, firm and financing.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm just trying to get an answer on this one thing. So we had Confluence that bid all 3 and they were higher. Did anybody else bid all 3?
No, I don't.
All 3, no.
Okay, I'm good, thank
I
you.
actually looked at the plans, all of the plans before I looked at the cost. And picked, well, I think I picked my top 2.
Actually, you were leaning towards, and then you
And then I looked at the cost
the
and I'm-
differences
Yeah, I wasn't.
of the plan, and when you look at the plan and the proposal, that's really what's the key. Obviously, you don't want to be out of whack or out of line with what's reasonable, so, no, absolutely not.
So who else was involved in that? Just you and Greg?
Yeah.
I mean, Mike and I have been working on the stormwater piece as well.
I don't know if
But on
Mike
the plan
reviewed the
review
plan.
itself, yeah. Yep. Find my
Okay, at this
spreadsheet.
point, I do have a motion and second on the floor. I'll call for a roll call vote.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry.
Aye.
Motion carries, so you are our stormwater company. Do I have a motion on the comprehensive plan, which is number 3?
I'll motion to approve.
Support.
Motion in support. Roll call.
John, Johnson, sorry. Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our number 4 is the updating the city zoning and subdivision code.
So moved.
Support. Okay.
Motion in support. Roll call, please.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you
We
for
look
coming.
Thank you,
forward to
Mayor and
working
Council,
with
for
you.
your time. I know we took a lot longer than you probably anticipated.
No, it's important.
Get it? I know that everybody wants to probably get out of here as quickly as possible, too, so.
Thank you.
But it's good to learn about you, and hopefully you've learned a little bit more about Bolton and Macon. We're looking forward to working with you.
Sure we will.
You too. Looking
Thank you
forward to
for
working
coming.
with you too. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Have a good day.
Number 5, we have a resolution appointing a fire chief and setting the salary.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call on this.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Keep up the good work. We need you.
Number 6, consider a resolution amending the city's master fee schedule related to rental permit fees and penalty for not obtaining a permit.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion on this?
I just want to confirm, when I stopped in and talked the other day, we had a couple of things we were like, hey, we're going to talk to Kelly on this real fast.
Yeah, initially when we started the resident rental housing, we wanted everybody to just get registered. So the incentive was, if you get registered within 90 days, we'll waive the registration fee. So we've got everybody registered now. So like Mohammed has already registered, so he's not gonna have to pay that again. He'll just pay his normal inspection fee for renewal. But if somebody new comes in, then we would charge them the 250.
So it's per person, not per house.
No, per.
Their fees aren't changing. That was an initial fee that was done a number of years back when the program was started to get people signed up. At this point in time, their annual fees aren't changing under the resolution. It's $250 for the permit and $75 for the inspection. No change.
We did say that
We're eliminating the other fee.
would include the inspection in the first
Right.
fee.
And we're eliminating the registration fee that is really, it's a moot point at this point. It's really not relevant. The other change on there is, if you don't get a building permit for something that doesn't have a fee, you can't double the penalty. It's zero on zero. We're suggesting that it's a $25 fee. We need to encourage folks to continue to get permits, and it's going very well. But when you have a $0 permit, there's no incentive to get it done.
Unless you
Other
want to
than the fact
implement
that-
a fee for those permits.
So we're just suggesting a very minor fee in that case, $25. People know they need to get a permit, and the contractors certainly do as well.
So the $75 for rental house inspection.
It's every 5 years.
$75 every 5 years to renew your license for a rental. And they go out and do an inspection of it.
And it's been that way.
Yeah, that's no change.
That's, yeah,
I assume that came from a council prior to.
yes.
Kelly, do I have a motion on the floor?
Yes.
Okay. Then I will call for a roll call vote on this.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
7.
7, consider a resolution approving the street finance report for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Any support? Discussion of any kind? Not. Call for a roll call.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 9. Nope.
How about
Number
8?
8, consider a resolution authorizing the appropriation of funds from the TIF to Campus Community Developers LLC in accordance with the Economic Development Agreement related to the construction of Black Hawk Tower student housing.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. Discussion.
This is one we do every year to appropriate funds so we can use TIF.
And I guess, just to clarify, when you have a TIF agreement, if it's $500,000 at the end of the day, you do the annual appropriation on an annual basis so that you don't have to include the entire amount against your debt limit on it, and you only include the annual payment against your debt limit.
Roll call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner.
Aye.
Number 9, consider resolution authorizing the appropriation of funds from TIF for the Partnering for the Future Campaign 3 in accordance with the Economic Development Agreement.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support.
This is the last year of that 5-year funding agreement.
Roll call.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 10, consider the second reading of an ordinance regulating solar energy systems.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Support. Any discussion? If not,
Well, Greg, you want to talk to us about this? I still don't see in this proposal where we can put solar up in residential.
So there's a couple things that you'll see that are different in here. The definition or the size of the solar energy system, so that small structure can be reviewed internally, then the larger structures would go to planning, or excuse me, ZBA for a special use permit. And those numbers were revised down based on some of the research. That 100 kilowatt was, how many panels? 400 panels?
400 panels.
400 panels, which was significant. And this is in commercial and industrial areas. We added 116.02, it identifies outdoor solar lighting systems, et cetera, and how they're excluded from this chapter as well. The other piece, and I guess it's really, I think, John, you're referring to, is whether or not we want to include housing under this section of the code. So under the current code, the rooftop-mounted arrays are regulated under the fire code, and under the building code, ground-mounted can be placed in residential. But you have to meet all of the current
Accessory
accessory structure, set-asides, percentage of backyard, so on and so forth. And so the question then
You can do rooftop solar in residential, no problem. And
Right.
small enough ground if it meets the accessory structure setbacks and maximum
Right.
percentage of rear yard
For
open
the ground.
space.
For the ground. It doesn't say that.
No, that's in the current code.
This
This is for
strictly
commercial and
this
industrial.
strictly
And so if you-
talks about commercial and industrial, and if you're naming them, then that means that's the only thing they can be in. The way
No.
this, way I read this.
No.
So we
no,
need to
under the-
clarify that.
Under the zoning ordinance, ground-mounted solar systems are treated as accessory structures. And as an accessory structure, you have to meet those setback requirements and the percentage of the backyard that you can utilize. You know, like if you're putting in a shed, as an example, you have to meet the same requirements for that. It's not excluded under the code, so it falls under the category of an accessory use.
Then
Or
why do
accessory
we,
structure,
why do we
excuse me.
specify for industrial and stuff?
We don't have any regulations on these larger projects that are going in, which is why Mark had brought this forward. Going forward, we're seeing more of these coming forward on a regular basis. He's doing one right now that's, how many, 86 panels that came forward? I think it was about 86 panels. So the question is, I mean, if you want to if you want to keep the ability, I just have to say that differently. Presently, you can do ground mounted, you have to meet the requirements, just like any other accessory structure. If you want to eliminate that option, then we will have to take specific action to add language that eliminates that in the city code. That's how Burlington does it as well. Had a conference call with them to see what they're doing, and they treat it as an accessory structure as well. And they have several examples. John, you mentioned one, but ours is the same as an accessory structure in Burlington.
Well, can we put that in there as that?
It's already in. It's in the remainder of the code.
Not
This is commercial.
what's in front of us,
This is
it's not
commercial and
here.
industrial.
Right,
Right. This is commercial and industrial.
I know. The last one, you were trying to throw the residential in here as not being limited, or being obligated.
we took the language out.
I know you did now, you took
Right.
it out. So that would mean that you could have had it then, but now we're not, so now we're just not gonna mention
Well,
it.
that was after we had the conference call with Burlington too, I think, to.
And last meeting when I hollered about it. Because before it read you couldn't. Now we go back to previous residential code, which says you can have it if all those things.
Right.
It does say that in the code.
Yep.
What code's that?
I don't know the number off
It's
the top of
called,
my head,
it's
but-
under accessory, it would be called, it would be.
Accessory structure.
It's an accessory structure, I can't talk, under the city code.
The same
And
code
you
that
just
deals
treat it
with
like any other
dog
accessory
kennels
structure.
and-
Like 165-18,
Well,
I
ours,
think.
it's,
Yep, same
separate
thing.
from the house or whatever, so.
Those are the requirements. We obviously haven't updated the zoning ordinance yet. So those are the same requirements that for all accessory structures.
Well, this solves the problems I had
Right.
last time. Thank you very much.
And I believe it also solves the questions that you had, John, as well, and ensures that it is allowable presently. Mhm.
As long as it's allowed.
Yes.
It just doesn't say that, right forward. But
Not in front of you,
the
yes,
other
it's-
code will, and I'll
16.
check on that.
Just look under accessory structures. You're not going to see it spelled out, but that's what it is. It's an accessory structure.
Okay.
I spent entirely too long of afternoon looking at solar ordinances for other cities. And some of them, well, several of them regulate it in as an accessory structure. They have to follow the same requirements as an accessory structure. Some of them pull it out even more, like this, in a different section of the code. The question is, does the council as a whole want to allow them in residential property, on residential lots,
Ground mounted.
ground mounted? You can do
They are
rooftop.
currently allowed.
Yeah.
And if you want to change that, then we would have to take positive action to do so.
Sounds like we're gonna do a whole comp plan that maybe we'll get feedback from.
Sounds like solar,
The-
energy is, solar panels is one of the.
And we can know if our neighbors want them or they want them gone.
Well, if you wait long enough, they'll make solar shingles, and then you won't have to worry about it.
I believe I have a motion on the floor here. So,
Let me see.
roll call, please.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees.
Aye.
Motion carries. Going back to old business. Consider resolution of support for the Greater Burlington Partnership, Partnering for the Future campaign number 4.
Motion to approve $35,000 broke up over 5 years of payments paid out of TIF.
Support.
Motion and support.
35,000, you said?
Yeah, and I don't care how you split them up, but
I assume it'd be even.
Would be 7,500. 7,000. 7,000 a year.
Roll call.
Crowner,
aye.
Johnson,
Nay.
Lees,
No.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
No.
Motion fails.
I'll make a motion that we pay $6,000 a year for the next 5 years, which is a 20% increase. And
Support.
Motion and support. Roll call,
Can we have some discussion, please?
certainly.
I don't think we're gonna get anywhere without it. One of my concerns with this, I do want to support, I appreciate what they do. I don't want that to be lost, but I do. One of our concerns that I don't think that they're meeting is the commercial aspect. I would like information on that side and a financial tie to how we can effectively address that in our community before we can make a decision on this side on how much we are willing to spend. Because I feel that money should come out of the same pot. Does that make sense? Say that again.
yeah, run that by me
There's a,
one more
there's a
time.
couple companies that focus on retail strategies and retail, there's a couple different retail firms that work with communities. There's one that's working with several communities in Iowa right now, and you can work with those firms as a community to identify and attract retail to your community, or at least identify prospective commercial companies that would locate in your area. It's not something that historically is in the chamber's wheelhouse. Now, they certainly support projects coming into the community. But there are companies like that are working currently in the state of Iowa, several communities that focus on that. I've been corresponding with them, just seeing what they have to offer. I can bring that information forward to you.
Is that what you're thinking of, Kathy, or were you saying more, you want to see what the partnership is doing to improve the commercial business in West Burlington, or,
My current understanding of the partnership is that not something that they are willing to do
retail work?
because of the conflict with other partnership members, which understandable. But I think that's where we're lacking in support of our community and our funding. And before I agree to spend this money on this manner, which does not mean I don't appreciate what they're doing and does not mean that I don't support what they're doing, but I want all the pieces before we do it. And I feel like this is part of those pieces that we need.
Yeah, I think one of the major things that the chamber does for commercial is bring people to town to shop in what's here. And that demand will help drive additional commercial development as needed. You don't have events like 8,000 people here for the soccer tournament without the chamber being involved, or the Greater Burlington Sports Authority being involved, and everything that they've done. They have been the driving force behind Recplex courts, the bubble, and bringing all those tournaments in, which drive that and drive our lost. So are they calling Kohl's to come here? No, that is not something they do, but they help drive the demand for that commercial building. And secondly, the few that I've brought to town, the first place I bring them is right down there. And get everybody in a room, and they have all the resources from engineering to site plans to available land to help get it done. But you're right, they're not the ones making the phone call. It's still heavily involved.
I thought it was interesting at the IAAP meeting that we had, they really took on the role of bringing a business, the IAAP, the ordinance plant, those people that were important in that, and the community members, us included, to the table together to kind of have a good communication, make sure we have communication going the right direction. And I think that's huge in helping develop business in the area, is that resource that they provide to bring everybody to the table that needs to be there. The Des Moines County Secondary Roads was there, schools were there, West Burlington, the college was there, the hospital representatives were there, you know, and they have those connections with those people to bring them all to the table at the right time, so that that development's it's smoother, it's easier to work through, because they have that connection with all the community members.
Southeast Iowa Landlord Association folks were there, people from Lee County were there, and there were probably 50 people in the room who got to hear the same briefing from IAAP leadership and the operating contractor.
I'm not sure if that addresses exactly what you're talking about, but I think that is an important role of the chamber. They didn't go out and look for the project to bring to the IAAP, but they're helping coordinate that together, which is what they would do if somebody came in and bought the mall, or somebody came in and bought the Raider precast property and
or bought GE.
Yeah,
they did pull that together.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's going to be contingent on us is to hold their feet to the fire to help us get a direction set and put wheels in motion for the industrial park out there at the Raider precast concrete. And if we're not asking for, okay, what's the approach there, what's going to happen, and what do we need to be doing as a council, it won't change. We got to be part of the solution, as do they, and with their leadership and their insight, and their vision, like, hey guys, this is what you can do, but you're going to have to put some money into it. We're going to need their help to turn that into something more than what it is today.
I think we're probably going to need more of our help and do a RISE grant of things of that nature for the scope of the project.
Sure.
And we must not forget, per Della's own words, you know, they're going to help people that pay the most, and she said that at our meeting. And if we don't up the ante, we probably aren't going to get the help, if I read that right. Whether she meant it or not, you know, it was said.
Yeah, I bet she wanted that statement back.
Well, and that brings me to this point. You know, if she did make that, you know, I would have had her in an office in the morning and said, hey, we need to write these guys a sorry thing, and I never got that. So, but I'm willing to forgive and forget, and I'm going 20% over what we gave last year, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a lot of money. So.
And I think that's fair, John, considering the rollback that we're going to be facing.
Yes.
Times we're going to get.
Which is why I think several have not proceeded yet.
Yeah.
But we have historically taken ours out of TIF. The last two agreements were out of TIF, so it seems appropriate to continue that process. And I have that on that list for the urban renewal plan as well.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
John?
Aye.
Johnson? I don't know why I can call him by his first name. What did you say, John?
Aye.
Okay. Lees?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Newberry?
Aye.
Crowner?
Aye.
Motion carries. Last item of business, then, I would entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Adjourn? I was thinking that was coming.
All in-
Support.
all in
Got
favor
it.
Signify by saying
Support.
aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Let's see. This would be the same thing.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I know this has been a
This
long.
new, this new
Is that all?
No, it's been a good one, though.
agreement needs to be in the TIF.
Gets long, yep, it does.
Yeah, that's on my list.
You need to be
Thank you,
the same
Mike.
thing.
Thanks, Mike, yeah.
Jesse,
Sidewalks
you too.
look great over there in Melville, thank you.
Next week, but, one place is
We need to
using
come- we need
agreement.
to approve the.
You need to do an internal advance at least.
So when
Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh.
Jim, you don't know football, do you? That's why I had, when you said your name, it was like, really, that guy?
First thing in the morning.
When will we see you again next? How's this,
Unless it gets a lot worse.
Schedule for
Right, wrong, or indifferent?
Can't go to the football game, you don't go to work.
They need us.
yes.
Sure, I'm looking right now.
Do we need to test you for diseases?
But I need to bring to the discussion.
Do we need to test you for diseases or anything?
He's got the
You done a
Puerto
good
Rican
job.
flu, Puerto Rico.
And hopefully,
Probably January,
Yeah.
messages out
It's kind of like the avian flu, isn't it?
okay. You'll be back here in town, and, but in the meantime, start doing a bunch of work in the
Do you need to
background.
go get an inhaler?
Windows 11
To do that?
gives me
I
thumb
said the
problems.
bat,
Where's the start menu on this?
bad fairy got
You know,
it.
I'd feel sorry for you, but you should have just stayed here and went.
At least it wasn't blowing on me this time.
Because I'm sitting on the curb with my baggage again. It's all right. It's all right.
Michael,
I can't.
Michael, leave it break. We did it for him.
We went, I would like to.
Long hour.
I imagine that a lot of people are going to Epic after they've had Cerner.
What's that?
I said, I bet a lot of people are going to Epic after they've had Cerner as a computer.
Way better.
A lot.
I want to shut this thing down. Where is my old start button? Where did it
Got
go?
another one, like,
No, I got an Apple I know nothing about.
no, it's in person, like on the 5th or something. No. You might be right. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Does Brad have the flu?
He's got a manful, he's moving over. Greg, you didn't hear?
I know where it was on my old machine.